Repeatable and scalable growth using 7 sales steps with Maddy Martin, episode 142. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today is our interview day. And boy, do I have a treat for you. Now, it's actually not an interview, but what I have done is I have packaged for you one of our talks from the Law Firm Growth Summit back in December of 2019. This was from day 2, the sales day, and our speaker was Maddy Martin from Smith AI. For those of you who don't know, Smith AI is a virtual reception service serving the law firm community, and they have built a brand and a reputation of being on the cutting edge of technology, using tech to allow their receptionists to not only handle your callers from a call perspective, but they also handle your other channels of communication. So a chatbot on your website. I think they even do messaging like on Facebook and stuff. Don't know for sure. You got to double check with them, but they're, a great company. We have a lot of our clients that are using them, very happy with them. And something unique in the industry, I believe, is that most answering services charge by the minute, and therefore they're motivated to stay on the phone longer. Not that I'm accusing anybody of doing something like that, but you would want them to stay on the phone as long as necessary to be able to provide the kind of service that you want. But at the same time, the meter's running. With Smith AI, they bill by the phone call. So you just get billed by the call, and you don't get billed for spam calls and stuff like that, wrong numbers, things like that. So great service, and I'm going to share with you a couple of things before we start. So one is, may as well share with you, Smith AI has a offer that they allow us to give, which gives you some extra free stuff that you get even if you go to them and give them our discount code, as opposed to just coming off their website. So you get a 14-day free trial, up to 20 calls or chats, equivalent of 1 month in the starter plan. It includes any integrations that you need. Like I said, it excludes spam and sales calls. You get 5% off if you're using both calls and chat when you sign up. You get 15% off if you pay for an annual plan, and you get 1 CRM integration for free. On top of that, you also get a free AI chatbot with a white glove setup, which means they'll set it up for you. No need for you to get your hands dirty at all. And you get $100 off your first full month of paid service once you get started with them beyond the 14-day free trial. So this is an awesome opportunity if you're in the market for virtual reception services. And I've spoken on a number of episodes about the value of outsourcing these kinds of things as opposed to trying to do them yourself or even keep them in-house. You may want a receptionist at the front door, but who's answering your phone after hours? Who's answering your phone when your receptionist is already on the phone? Who's answering the phone when your receptionist is out sick? And who's answering the phone when your receptionist is simply out to the bathroom or lunch? So no matter what your situation, there's always a reason to have an overflow capability for your phone calls coming in. So definitely check it out. It's going to be smith.ai, and you're going to use code Profit Law 100, code Profit Law 100. We'll link that up in the show notes, so you can just simply look at the screen or go to this episode, profitwithlaw.com/142, profitwithlaw.com/142 to get access to all the links that we're going to share in this episode. Item number 2 is this is a replay of one of 31 sessions from our Law Firm Growth Summit of 2019. And we chose not to run a summit in 2020 because we didn't really choose not to run one in 2020. Who are we kidding? Let me be honest and upfront with you, because that's what I do here behind the microphone. I really just dragged my feet in getting the summit off the ground because last year we were the first ones to bring a virtual summit to the legal community. And we wanted it to be top-notch as far as a virtual summit goes, and it was exactly that. And we had over 2,300 attendees, and we're very proud of the product we created. However, this year, because of COVID, every conference has gone virtual. Every marketer who's trying to get the attention of law firm owners has gone virtual, and everything out there is either live or prepackaged Zoom calls, webinar sessions, things like that. So seeing what's happening in the marketplace and seeing the fatigue that many of you are getting from attending all of these sessions and not having anything to show for it, we wanted to create a product that was different. And I'm not going to give you all the details yet because a lot of it is still in the planning stage, but it's probably going to be in February of 2021. It's probably going to have a keynote speaker that is somebody that you're going to want to hear. It's probably going to have hands-on workshops where you're not only just taking notes and then creating a to-do list for yourself, but you're actually doing the work in the workshop and getting it done right then and there. How freaking cool would that be? On top of that, we are going to make it a lot of fun to attend. And by fun, I mean gamifying it with prizes and some really cool prizes and parties. Maybe live music, maybe some dancers, maybe a live stage. Now, I don't mean that you can come to in person, but you'll be able to attend and kind of get the feel like you're there in person. And networking, real, true networking with other people, having conversations with other people. Don't we all crave that right now? Wouldn't we love to just connect with new people, with old people, and make that happen? So this is my vision for the Law Firm Growth Summit 2021. And we're going to make it happen. We're going to bring it to you. And we are working on this right now. So here's the deal. I have a way for you to get an absolutely free VIP pass to the upcoming summit. So if this is something that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm there, I'm in, I want to be there, I have this offer for you. And here's the deal. We have a product called the Law Firm Growth Incubator. The Law Firm Growth Incubator is a membership where you pay $97 a month to get access to myself, Mark Homer from GNGF, and Melanie Leonard from Streamline Legal. And we come in and support you for 4 calls a month. So every Wednesday we do a call, 2 p.m. Eastern. And each of us has our area of expertise that we bring to the table. Mark is marketing, Melanie is tech and systems and processes, and myself, business, finance, staff management, staff development, things like that. It's a great dream team, A team to support you in your law firm growth. On top of that, we have content to help you on your path to success. So if you want to know give me the steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I need to do in my marketing, we've got that for you. If you want to know what should I be spending my money on, we've got that for you. So if you want to have access to this training, And that training is still being uploaded into the portal. Calls are available right away. Then you want to join the Law Firm Growth Incubator. Now, $97 a month sounds like a lot of money. For some of you, it may be a lot of money, and for some of you, it's a drop in the bucket, and the price for what you're getting is laughable. But we wanted to make this accessible to the masses. Here's the deal. When we launched the Law Firm Growth Incubator in May of 2020, we offered a founder's price. We offered founding members $27 a month to join. And what we're doing is for a brief period right now, we are opening up that founder's price on an annual basis to you. And here's the deal. Not only do you get access to the incubator for an entire year for $297. If you do the math, that's 11 times 27, which means we're throwing in a month for free. So you're getting founder's price $27 a month, which is $70 off of what we are charging for the product today. You get $70 off, and you get a free month. And on top of that, you get a free VIP pass to the Law Firm Growth Summit 2021. And although that ticket might not cost $297, or it might cost more, I'm not firm on the pricing yet, so I don't want to say anything in that regard. You're definitely getting your value here. And that VIP pass could be worth a lot more to you because of some of the amazing games, prizes, and giveaways that we're going to be doing. We're going to be giving away some really, really cool stuff during this event. And VIP ticket holders are going to get automatic entries into a lot of these raffles and giveaways that you will have access to because you got your free VIP pass. So, Moshe, how do I take advantage of this offer? Glad you asked. Go to profitwithlaw.com/unbelievable. profitwithlaw.com/unbelievable. That will take you to the checkout page, $297. It is a recurring subscription that is billed annually. You can cancel at any time. $297 a year will give you access to the incubator, and you lock in your price. It'll never go up for you, even if we keep raising the price for other people. So, once again, access to the incubator for 12 months, a free month that's part of that 12 months, right? You're paying for 11, you get 12 months. And you get a free VIP access to the Law Firm Growth Summit 2021. I've taken enough of your time. Let me tell you about Maddy Martin. Maddy Martin from Smith AI has become a really close business friend of mine. And we talk a lot. I do presentations for her. She does presentations for me. And she has introduced me to a heck of a lot of people in this industry. And I owe her a ton of gratitude and a ton of thanks. But she's just an A player. She knows what she's doing, and she's got a lot of value to share. And she did this presentation that nails 7 sales steps to repeatable, scalable sales growth. This is a presentation that we aired at the Law Firm Growth Summit 2019. And even though you didn't attend, or maybe even if you did, you're going to hear it here again. If you want access to the slide deck, she's going to share a link. It's a bit.ly link. It's case sensitive. Don't even try to listen to it and follow it. Just click on the link that's in the show notes, or click on the link that's on the show notes page at profitwithlaw.com/142. Without wasting any more time, here's the presentation from Maddy. Enjoy it. I'll catch you next Tuesday. Take care.
Maddy Martin here for Smith AI. Just before we get started with today's sales track session, 7 sales steps for 2020, lock in repeatable, scalable law firm growth. I just wanted to share the deck link for today. As a housekeeping note, the link is available for you to view at any time at your own pace at bit.ly/7-sales-steps LFGS, And my contact information is also there. So if you have any questions about how to apply the tips and techniques that I share with you today, feel free to get in touch with me, Maddy@smith.ai. All right, let's get started. So as I mentioned, Maddy Martin here for Smith AI. We are a virtual receptionist service for live calls and web chat, and we have handled over 600,000. Actually, it's even closer to 800,000 or above now for solo and small firm attorneys, and that's calls and website chat. And the reason that I am presenting to you these tips is because we have firsthand experience handling communications on behalf of solo and small firm attorneys. And we really have seen what works and what doesn't. And we've integrated into their operations so that we can help them run more productive, profitable, and professional law firms. So we're gathering information from all of this experience to bring it here to you today so that you can run a better law firm yourself, with access to automations and outsourcing that helps you run your firm. So let's talk about the goals and objectives. So what we're going to focus on today is identifying the time-consuming tasks and distractions that really end up consuming so much of the day-to-day. And then understanding the communication systems that help you manage the business side of running a law firm or solo practice. And that includes phone systems, it's the call handling procedures, working with outsourced services. It's also email, text messaging, and web chat primarily. Then we'll talk about the basics. So how to start using these systems, and then advanced techniques to maximize the impact of these systems. We'll also discuss your game plan for reducing distractions and time-consuming tasks with step-by-step directions so that you're not off on your own wondering how are you going to implement all of these different recommendations, but actually a game plan for you to implement to give you an immediate actionable step to take when you go back to your firm. So the 7 things we're going to discuss are routing inbound communication, specifically phone and email, and also web chat and texting, and how to limit calls and emails with those web chat and texting applications. We'll talk about how to automate lead capture and qualification, how to hand off new client intake, how to streamline appointment scheduling and reminders, how to integrate payment collection into workflows, how to systematically refer bad leads and generate better leads for your practice. And then we'll also discuss integrating your communications into your existing systems, like your CRM, your case management system, calendaring, billing, marketing automation software, and more. So who cares? Well, you should, according to the 2017 and 2018 Clio Legal Trends reports. And what the data in those reports show is that 1.9 hours is the average time that an attorney spends on billable work per day, compared to much more than that, 2.9 hours spent on administrative tasks, which are most commonly office administration, invoicing, and configuring technology. Now, we know that there is a great importance placed on generating new clients for a sustainable, growing firm, because 2 hours out of every day are spent on business development and networking, things of that nature. Now, at the same time, interruptions cause a major loss of time in the day. And we know that 23 minutes is just the amount of time that's taken from recovering from an interruption, not just the interruption itself. And if that happens on average 6 times a day for an attorney, that amounts to a 2-hour loss per day. Now, we know also that 2 out of 3 potential clients base their decision to hire on an attorney's initial responsiveness to their first call or email, may even be web chat or contact form completion. Increasingly, it's even a text message. At the same time, 59% of people on average don't hire an attorney even after that consultation. So what does that mean? It means that we need to be much better about protecting the time so that consults are scheduled with the clients or the potential clients who are most likely to hire you. Now, also, 86% is the average amount of an attorney's earnings that is ever collected. So how do we make sure that your time is best spent and it does impact your bottom line as much as possible by helping you to collect the earnings that you have accrued on work completed? So what does this data mean to us? It means that there are a number of dilemmas that we're presented with here. The first is that interruptions kill your productivity and you want to minimize them, while at the same time, potential clients demand a quick response time and you want to maximize responsiveness. So there's a butting of the heads between the interruptions that you're willing to accept, especially if they're from potential clients who are demanding that quick response time, but how do you sort out the spam, the tire kickers, the people who are not a good fit for your firm because they're just not a good match for your practice area? So we need to both protect your time and also increase your responsiveness. The second dilemma has to do with payments, and invoicing and chasing them down is extremely time consuming. And if you don't spend your own time doing so, typically when you're using an agency, a collections agency, they take 30 to 50% of the cut, which is not maximizing your revenue. So addressing a solution that's sustainable for that is on the docket today as well. Now, the third dilemma has to do with technology. And in solo and small firms, it is incredibly important to make sure that you're competitive in your firm in terms of your productivity, because you don't have the resources of a large firm and those economies of scale that come with that. So it's important, but also we don't want to have a huge burden of the cost of employing a technology company or many consultants to implement this technology at your firm. So when we're looking at technology and the implementation of it, understanding that you're in a solo or small practice, we want simple and intelligent tools that you can hopefully implement as much as possible yourself. Now, the fourth dilemma has to do with control. And so often when I travel the country and I'm at events, I talk to a lot of attorneys who say, I'm in a solo small firm practice because I wanted control over my work-life balance, over the practice areas, over the methods in which I do work, over what technology I'm using, for example. But there comes a point when you've taken all of this control and it's actually way more of a burden than you initially anticipated. So understanding that we want to have control, but with balance between your work and your life, and making sure that you're achieving that balance that's right for you. Because we're not saying here that there's an ideal work-life balance. That's a personal choice. But what we want to do is give you the tools so that you can achieve the ideal work-life balance, give up some control, gain some control where it's necessary, and just allow you to have that level of flexibility that you need within your practice so that your practice isn't running you, because that is not control. So what does this data mean at the end of the day? It means that interruptions come to you and are happening by you from new leads, follow up with existing clients. They're coming from court staff, they're coming from judges, which may indeed be an urgent interruption, and you send up the bat signal when that interruption comes through to make sure you're responsive. There may be other interruptions that are from spam or from potential clients you're not sure how qualified they are. All of these interruptions need to be screened and routed appropriately to best protect your time. And these can come through a number of different channels. So how do we automate those routing procedures and give you the systems you need to do so to best protect your time? Now, the solutions to these dilemmas are really to adopt cost-effective and efficient systems, not just for routing and tracking communications, but for filtering new leads, for scheduling consults with best potential clients, or maybe a callback or an appointment on the calendar with an existing client, and then handling appropriately and with the right level of priority, intake, payment, and other tasks. So what are we looking for when we're talking about these systems? We're looking for systems that are affordable, that are customizable. And what I mean by customizable is at the start and ongoing. So not initially customizable, but if you didn't set up the system exactly as you wanted in the beginning, which so often is the case, then can you change it later on easily and also hopefully by yourself? Going back for a moment to affordability. It's really important and increasingly accessible that systems and software and services are available to you without you making an annual commitment, because so many things can change in a solo or small firm over the course of a year or more that signing an annual contract is just not a sustainable business practice or prudent in our experience working with law firms. So increasingly, you want to be looking for software and services that are month to month without required commitment. They should also be easy to use and monitor. So it shouldn't require coursework or having to go through trainings to have a basic understanding of how these systems work. They should also be as much as possible comprehensive. So the fewer bills you have to manage, the better. And the more that your systems talk to each other, the better. So that kind of leads me to the next point, which is integrations. If you're working with software and services that have an open API or that connect to sort of connector platforms like Zapier, that will allow you to reduce the data entry tasks and chores that do end up consuming a lot of time. So for example, in our practice as receptionists or on website chat, after a call or a chat, the new contact that was made during that call or chat is passed directly into a case management system or an intake system, for example. With that new contact record created, the conversation logged, whether that's perhaps the receptionist notes what happened during the call or the entire chat transcript. Those are examples of efficiencies so that you're not doing, or your paralegal or office manager is not doing that stuff themselves. Now, also with these systems, if you're outsourcing to a human being, increasingly we're encouraging solo and small firm attorneys to build out their comfort level in this respect, but to allow for reasonable discretion with outsourcing. It is on the onus of the firm owner, of the attorney, to manage whoever you're outsourcing to the extent to which you're responsible for the work that they're doing on your behalf, even if it's answering phones or if it's paralegal work, for example. So the more that you are giving them some discretion, hopefully the less they're checking back in with you and it's consuming a lot of time with that back and forth. So pick the right capable services in addition to this software in the beginning so that you can give them some discretion. So if they understand the underpinnings of your firm and how it works and your MO, they can use that information to have reasonable discretion and make decisions that are informed, that don't require checking back in with you all the time. So when we talk about how potential clients are handled, really we're talking about, remote or in-house services, maybe paralegals, bookkeepers, receptionists. These are people you can hand off certain non-lawyering work to. And then in terms of software, the systems that we're considering here are call routing and tracking software, case management and practice software, CRM, which is a client resource management software, client intake or marketing automation software, and increasingly those are synonymous, calendaring software, and billing software. Now, how do we put the human intelligence and machine intelligence together for the greatest experience for the potential leads and clients that feels like the experience that you want out of a solo or small firm and not a big corporate business, combined with the efficiency of machine intelligence and artificial intelligence and learning? So it really comes down to form and function. So when we're looking at these 7 steps, keep in mind the role of human intelligence and machine intelligence. Human intelligence has to do with what questions you're coming up with to qualify leads based on your experience with past clients. And we'll talk about creating a really great initial qualification or intake form. What sort of greeting are you using to say hi to new callers, or for people who are answering your phones, how are they greeting new callers on your behalf? What's the email content? So if you're using a lead nurture drip to communicate with people before they hire you, what content are you putting in there? What are your strongest testimonials? These are areas where you have great impact in making that selection, and where machine intelligence at this point is probably not going to come into play. You are making the decision there. You are picking the testimonial, the content, the advice, the content in respect to your background and your experience that will help sell that person that you're the right attorney, if the case may be, to help that person with their matter. Now, on the machine intelligence side, there are things like, which software are you going to use? How is an intake form hosted? Are you embedding your calendar on your website? And is that integrated with a payment system if you charge for consultations, for example? What is the trigger, the timing for your lead nurture drip? Even your social media posts as you're building your brand online. There are tools that inform the best performance and the best timing of these software and services. When is your call volume highest? What are the call tracking metrics if you have marketing campaigns? That is the sort of machine intelligence that we want to leverage. So you're not making the assumption that a Wednesday 9 a.m. newsletter email is going out if the data shows that Thursday at 10 a.m. is better. So using those services to the best of your ability and to the extent that your budget will allow. And increasingly, I'm happy to say that a lot of these services are very affordable, especially for solo and small businesses, of which law firms are just a part. So let's talk before we get into these steps, because we're going to be talking a lot about lead qualification, about communications. Really want to frame it here, the lead conversion flow. This is a funnel of sorts, and it's presented this way instead of top down, but instead left to right to allow for a bit more content. So let's talk about the generation period and then the capturing and conversion period. The sources that we know that are most important for law firms are still referrals, and I'll get into some strategy around that later. Referrals and then online reviews, if they're positive, we know that that can generate a ton of new business. Local listings, paid search, social media, which is excellent because it can really inform your potential client base so that when they reach out to you, they know what you do and don't do. And that also goes for content, for freebies. And what I mean there is advice, forms that you're providing gratis that allow people to get a taste for your services or get a taste for your expertise. And I'll talk about one particular example in the landlord-tenant space later on in this presentation. Also technical SEO and link building. So we know that the more you have backlinks to your site, for sure people are clicking on those and they're finding you, but also technical SEO. So when people are searching online and you're not running paid search campaigns, how likely are you to show up in those search results, in the organic search results? And then when people find you, what are the contact methods that they're using? So we'll talk about best practices for phone, email, texting, website chat. And then we'll also talk about how to best utilize those services ethically and in the most efficient way. The response methods is really one of the areas where we're going to focus on today. So attorneys, you may be responding to your phones, your emails, your text messages that can easily become overwhelming. So how do we leverage in-house teams, receptionist services, other out-of-house teams like paralegals and bookkeepers and things like that? Not bookkeepers in the sense of initial responsiveness to leads, but in follow-up with clients. And then AI, how do we automate certain responses to commonly asked questions, for example? And there's a really great case for doing so with website chat that we'll talk about. Now, when that contact happens, let's say it's a potential new client, the qualification step really has two branches to the tree. There are good leads, and then there are people who are not qualified as good leads. And what happens with the good leads is that we do our best to convert them. So there's a basic intake and screening, and then there's the sales sort of process where you're convincing them that this new good potential client should hire your law firm and that you are the best suited to work with them and to serve them. Their decision-making process may be instant or it may be delayed. And oftentimes this is a function of the practice area that you're in and the type of case. Like for a personal injury, criminal defense, these are things that happen in terms of the decision-making to hire an attorney very quickly. And then there are other matters, maybe it's estate, maybe it's a family issue. Those can be more delayed. Someone who is looking to work in an estate matter, or it's a child custody, or it's a divorce, for example, are they on the fence? Are they ready to make that decision to hire the attorney and to go down that path? That may be a longer period of time where that decision is being made. When the decision is made, then they're signing the agreement. They're making the payment if it's relevant to that practice area, and then you get to work. Now, on the other side, we have qualification, and it's not a good potential client. So what happens? We have bad leads, so to speak, who then we strategically educate on what the firm does, and then we refer them out. So how are you best doing so? That's building up your future client base and building up goodwill. And then insofar as it's allowable within your state or within your comfort level, are you earning referral fees for that referral? Because that can be a secondary source of income insofar as that it's allowed within your practice. So let's talk about the first step, which is routing inbound phone and email communications. So when we do so, it's really important that you have a professional greeting. And if it's helpful to you, a simple menu can be very handy for routing calls appropriately. So if you have a simple menu that's just press 1 for new clients, 2 for existing clients, or press 1 for Attorney Joe and 2 for Attorney Jane, that can really be effective in terms of routing certain calls to the right people. We see in the receptionist services that we provide that sometimes people just want to route potential clients to us so that we can screen them and then schedule a consultation, which may even be paid, and we take payment on the phone. All the existing clients get routed to maybe an in-house legal secretary or the attorneys themselves. That's one potential example. You can also have a certain sequence so that you have your phones ringing first, someone in the office. And if they're not available because there's someone in the office who supports you, who does a lot of different things, they may also be a paralegal, they may also sometimes be out of the office, or they take an hour lunch. How are you responding to potential clients? Because if they're taking an hour lunch, is that also the same time that a potential client is taking their lunch and they have time to call a law firm? Oftentimes we actually see that's the case. So there's a misalignment there then in terms of your availability to be responsive and the client's need to talk to you. So having an overflow situation where you have implemented a phone service that is receiving calls for you when you're not able to respond, maybe 1 or 2 rings, and then it rings over to the service, can be a very effective and cost-effective way that allows you to be responsive without paying fully for that service to run all the time. So only when you need it. Also, speaking about overflow and outside of the normal time or ability to answer calls, it's really important to set expectations. So consistency is key here, not having an hour lunch break, or maybe if you're answering your own phones, if you're in court in the morning as a criminal defense attorney, or you're at trial, that's a lot of inconsistency that can happen in terms of how people experience your law firm. And that can result in itself in a negative review. We see often that a law firm, just like a restaurant, where maybe the food is delicious, but the service wasn't great, it gets a negative review. If you're not answering your phones well, or your emails promptly, or you have text messaging enabled and people can't reach you in that preferred way, that can even result in a negative review. So if you do that well, actually, even if they don't even hire you, if they're not a good potential fit for your firm, you can even get a good review based on the experience of communicating with your firm. So one of the ways to do so and to set good expectations is with your voicemail, if you have it set up, especially for after hours. Now, we're not recommending that you let people reach your voicemail during regular hours, but it's totally reasonable after hours to say on your voicemail, as a special after hours voicemail message, "Thank you for calling ABC Law Firm. You've reached us after hours. Please leave your name, phone number, and a brief message for how we can help you, and we will get back to you the next business day or within 3 hours of the next business day," whatever it is that is your sort of SLA, which is a customer support term, which means service level agreement. And it's your commitment to how quickly you're going to get back to someone, or how quickly you'll respond or try to resolve a situation. It's really helpful to set those expectations via voicemail, because it will allow you to buy time with that potential client. It will allow you to build patience into that potential client, so that they are less likely to go and call other firms, because they have a sense of security that you will indeed call them back, because you're very clear setting expectations through your messaging. Now, it's also important that you're reachable away from your desk phone. So if you have a desk phone, we'll talk about that, but it is critically important that you have your cell phone able to accept calls for your business through a business number, not your personal cell phone, and that you also have text messaging enabled, because it's not just millennials anymore. It's oftentimes other potential clients who are older, they're elderly, they just prefer using text message. It is a way to easily communicate when you're not able to have a voice call for whatever reason. Maybe it's more discreet if you work in an office to be texting. We see that with website chat. So make sure that you're accessible. Even if you're in court, you can't take a call, but you can see a text message. That can be very helpful to stay in touch with your firm and the goings on. Also, if you do not have automatic spam blocking set up, I really encourage you to find a VoIP cloud phone system that has spam blocking built in, because what we see with so many solo and small firm attorneys, really two things. One is that many are still using a personal cell phone number. And once someone gets that number in their phone, they're not going to remove it. They will always have that as a backup solution to reach you. And that is a major interruption, and it's invasive. The second thing that we see is that people are not answering their phones because of the number of spam calls that they're getting. We see upwards of 30% and even more spam, and it's increasing year over year. It's something like 30 billion spam calls a year. So what does that mean? It means that, understandably, you may not be answering your phone for numbers that you don't recognize, even though it could be spam or a potential client, because of the nuisance of spam calls. So if you automatically block out those spam calls, and you have, for example, a receptionist or receptionist service that is screening those calls first, then you know when your phone rings that it is very likely to be a valid phone call for you. I will also say that it is, really reasonable to have certain numbers skip over a receptionist or receptionist service. Sometimes it's existing clients, certainly friends and family. If you're paying for services to handle your phone calls, make sure that you route the ones around them that you don't need to be handled or to be paying for. Vendors, agencies, consultants that you're working with, typically that doesn't need to be something that you're paying for, and you can keep your costs down that way. Even every little thing, it matters. Mind the pennies and the dollars will mind themselves. So there's also marketing performance tracking that you can get when you have a phone system set up properly. So with a VoIP phone or cloud phone system, you're able to actually have the marketing performance tracking in place so that with a specific landing page or a Facebook page or an advertising campaign, even a billboard on the highway, you have a phone number that is dedicated to that campaign. So whether someone's on their mobile phone and they click on the phone number, or someone sees it and they dial that phone number, you know exactly how to track the number of calls that are coming in, the quality of the potential clients that are coming in, and whether or not that campaign is doing well for you because it's generating new business that actually is working for your firm. Now, when we talk about phone system issues, the one thing that we have seen, although, generally VoIP phone systems these days are very good quality, internet speeds are high, so we see call connectivity being, very strong. One of the things that we do see, though, is latency. And it's really hard to know this is happening if you're just answering your calls. So what I recommend is to do an audit of your phone and sort of secret shop your phone number, because what latency means is that someone is calling your firm, that phone number, and they may be hearing 8 rings before it connects to you. You may just be hearing 1. So you don't know that there's latency, that there's a delay in your phone system. So if that person is hanging up before you pick up, or they're irritated, or it's not a good experience, or it's unprofessional, you can actually mitigate that. It may involve switching your phone system to another VoIP phone system, or it may involve just reaching out to them and saying, I'm experiencing this, or my callers are experiencing this. How do I reduce that time of all those rings that's happening before they reach me? The other thing is that when you're using a receptionist service, you want to make sure that you're auditing that as well. They should consistently adhere to your directions, just like someone in-house would. Now, the benefit of having someone in-house is that you can hear them on the phone. Now that's a distraction in and of itself, but you can hear them and it's more easy to monitor. So make sure that if you're using a receptionist service, which has many other benefits than an in-house service, that you have the ability to monitor them, and you do so with regularity, just to make sure that they're pronouncing your name correctly, because we often see issues with that in other service providers where we will call companies with other receptionist services, and they will inconsistently even say the law firm's name and pronounce it correctly. So that instills doubt immediately in a new potential client. If they've called once, the name is pronounced one way, they call again, the name is pronounced another way. They thought that that person may be in-house. It's not a good experience. Now, when we also talk about routing communications, we talk about email as well. So one of the things that we often see is the emails that are coming in could be contact form completions from your website. Automatically pass those off. It doesn't need to be a distraction to you. These are potential clients. Use a service to screen them before you follow up individually yourself. It is not the best use of your time to be screening these people yourselves. And we'll talk about the form itself and getting the best possible data from those forms and the best possible people completing them in the first place. But more and more, make sure that you are forwarding or routing your email so that the fewest distractions are coming in, because we know the back and forth of emails can be extremely time consuming. I also recommend that you set multiple inboxes and permissions, and that you're using software, especially to interact with clients, that is not via email, that requires a portal or a login. If people are texting you also, that can be logged into that portal. With email campaigns, one of the things that we also encourage is to automate follow-up with new potential clients with a lead nurturing drip. And what that means is that when someone is in touch with you and you determine they're a good potential fit for your firm, that you follow up with them on an automated basis. So you have a sequence of 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, with the cadence of weekly or daily, maybe if it's immediate decision-making time, or even monthly if it's really an extended decision-making time. Whatever sort of like assertiveness or passiveness is comfortable for you, that you have that automated, so that when you're sending emails, you're not doing it on a onesie-twosie basis. Also, bulk email tools are very effective. I'm doing this presentation just on June 29th, 2019, and we have 4th of July coming up. Many people are taking that day off, and then also maybe the Friday after. If you're taking time off, it's important that you alert proactively your people in your lead pool or existing clients, maybe even other counsel who you're working with or opposing counsel, whoever needs to have that message, that you're sending them proactively a message when you'll be out of office, that you set your out of office message, and that if you do so, you adhere to that. And people know that if you say you're out of office, you are, which is a boundary setting function. And also, you can use tools that are very cheap here. So Mailshake is very affordable. Yet another mail merge is basically a way to just have a spreadsheet and an email you draft in Gmail, for example, and then you send off that email to your contacts that you need that message to be received by. And that is an easy way to scale up your communications via email that allows you not to send one-off emails to all these different people. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It's very easy to set up. Now, also to reduce scheduling back and forth, I really encourage that when you start getting into that conversation via email of when can you meet or who's available when, if you're doing a one-on-one email back and forth and you're just trying to schedule a meeting with one other person, Calendly is a great free tool that allows you to embed in your email clickable times on your calendar when you're free. It sits on top of your calendar so it knows. And then allow that person you're emailing to select the time that works for them. So you've already filtered out the times that you're available. Now, with multiple people, it's really nice to use Doodle, which is also a free tool. All of these tools take into account your time zone. And you can see here in the screen that on page 22, that we have multiple people who are available. And the common time that everyone's available is March 7th here. So that's the time the meeting is going to be booked. Now, for the second step, really limiting those calls and emails with website chat and text messaging. With website chat, we see a few different versions. There's the automated chat or maybe self-service chat that is a very low cost. And then there's a little bit higher cost that's a managed chat service that may also have an AI component like ours, where you're having certain features that enhance the quality and the capability of the staff itself. So one example of that is real-time English-Spanish translation. If someone on our team, for example, is an English speaker and we're chatting on behalf of an immigration law firm, then the person who is on the website, if they prefer Spanish or they're predominantly a Spanish speaker, if they chat in Spanish on your website, it is automatically translated into English with a neural network AI that allows the live staffed agent on chat to see it in English, respond in English, which is their native language, and then it goes back into Spanish to present to the website visitor. That is extremely effective, and it is an instant ability to increase your language capabilities for the staff that you're using or outsourcing to. Now, that can be used also by an in-house staff. So if you have someone who's English speaking or even with other multiple languages, to be able to translate what they're saying is very effective if you do have the ability to serve people in other languages, but just not on the frontline staff. Now, after hours and sort of a hybrid of both of these models is the AI and the live staff, so that automatic responses come through after hours or for really common questions, so that you're not consuming the time of an in-house team or live people that are more costly to utilize their time to respond to common questions. You can have those proactively responded to. So for example, are you accepting new clients, or how do I schedule a consultation? Those are common questions that we often see added as a Q&A sort of question and answer pairing, so that when someone has a question, whether it's ask directly as you would phrase it, or synonymously, that you can have an answer that's paired to it that gives them immediately a response and helps them determine if you're the right law firm for them. Now, with web chat, one of the things that we strongly recommend attorneys do is to have a disclaimer. And what that means is to have a message that shows up that says this chat does not establish an attorney-client relationship, and it does not constitute legal advice, because what we see sometimes on chat is that people are trying to get legal advice or they're kicking tires, and you want to, again, set those boundaries early on. Now, the really nice thing about chat is that it is a gatekeeper, not only for a calendar that may not be visible on your website, but that is available and accessible through website chat. So if someone has questions that indicate they're a good potential fit for your firm, good potential client, then you can share that link to Calendly with them so that they can book a consultation on your calendar, or using other systems that allow for payment integration if you charge for a consultation. It can also be a gatekeeper and a reducer of phone calls and emails and text messages. So having that proactively respond on your website, or a person through chat respond on your website, can reduce those inbound calls and emails that do generate an interruption. And you see immediately within web chat, what is this conversation going to be about? And is it a good fit for your firm? Or can you stem the conversation and you can make a referral to another firm or your state's lawyer referral service, etc. One of the other things that we find is that not every answer has to come directly through a chat. If you have a knowledge base on your website, you can link to more comprehensive answers to common questions. So for example, Kim Bennett, she practices in Atlanta, New York City. She has a knowledge base on her website that's educate.kbennettlaw.com, and it answers in depth some common questions because she runs a virtual law practice. One of them is, what is a virtual law practice? That's a very open-ended question, and one she gets very often, so she can go into detail about it, which is much more than like putting paragraphs into a web chat. Now, one of the other things that we recommend is having texting enabled, but also using tools like ZipWhip that allow you to have automatic responses to your text messaging, and even using services that will respond to text messages on your behalf if it's a little bit more than the automatic response can handle, again, the same way that a web chat would happen. You can also use solutions like Time Miner so that if existing clients are texting you, you can log the time spent texting so you can bill for it. Now, step 3 has to do with improving lead capture and qualification. And one of the key components of really great lead qualification is to standardize your criteria. So identify the methods through which you will do your lead capture and qualification with a form. What does the form contain? And if there is a consultation, what is your policy on consultation? So this whole qualification process, it's not just the form, the contact form on your website, or a basic intake form to determine how likely they are to be a good client for your firm, but also the method and the means in which you do consultations. Do you charge for them? How long are they? Are they 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? Are they by video? Are they in person? Are they by phone? Who's handling them? Is there always a partner between you and your partner, perhaps at a firm, that's doing those consults initially? Who's more comfortable and natural at that? And then really, are they free or paid? One of the things often that we see to at least initially screen a potential client but not penalize them if they're a good client is to have the consultation fee charged, but if they hire you, then that's credited to their first bill. So it's not actually an extra cost. It's only an extra cost if you're not actually a good potential fit or you don't end up hiring the firm, then you're compensated for your time. If they hire you, your time will be compensated many times over in other ways, and hopefully that's worth, having the initial consultation be free. You can also outsource this process as much as possible. So inbound calls, you can have a receptionist service or in-house screening those potential clients based on your criteria. And then you can also have inbound emails, contact form completions, trigger an email to your in-house or outsourced service, and have a callback happen immediately. So how do you respond really quickly to those contact forms? You call them back initially. And what a great experience that is to say, I got your message. Maybe that person is more comfortable typing out what they need, or they're just online or they're at work. Well, if you make that outbound call, it really shows that you're going to be prompt and easy to work with if they do hire you. It's a good approximation for your responsiveness to people when they're clients, how you respond to them when they're leads. Now, thinking also about the criteria here. So take a look at the best clients that you've enjoyed working with and the ones who you didn't really enjoy working with. And maybe you do exit interviews, which allow you to evaluate, maybe privately or publicly, face-to-face with that client. What was their experience like? Did you feel like that was a client that you would have hired again? That can be really informative in determining how, careful you're going to be in accepting new clients. You may just be hanging your shingle and you want to have as many new clients as will possibly come in, or you could be practicing for a decade or more and you could say, I'm going to be a bit pickier because I can be. I have ample demand to hire me and I'm going to be choosy in who I work with because I can be, and that's the sort of control, coming back to what I said earlier, that I want to have over my firm. So again, aim for 5 to 10 questions in your initial lead qualification and intake. You may find that this is a form you want to put online, especially before the calendaring happens with that consultation. So you could very easily say, first step is completing this form. The next step is you get access to my calendar, and we see that very often. If you're going to have your calendar embedded on your website, I really encourage you to at least charge for consultations, even if you're going to credit it back to people, or even if you say you charge for consultations and the first 30 minutes is free and then the next 30 minutes, if they need it, is charged. Whatever you're comfortable with. If you have a lot of people who are visiting your website, you do need to be careful that people are not just going to sign up for consultations with you because it's free and waste your time. So again, protecting yourself with the systems that you set up. And always, always, always in the form that you are creating on your website or that you're handing off to in-house or outsourced teams, ask for how the lead heard about you. Because at the time that they're writing that or having that first phone call, that is the time that the information is going to be most robust and complete. They may even tell you exactly what they typed into Google if they found you organically or through one of your paid campaigns. They may say that someone referred you. Increasingly, they're going to have more accurate information and more specific information if you ask them upfront. Now, some examples of intake forms that we see as best practices. Emily Cooper runs a law practice in Minnesota. This is her form. She does a lot of things right here. So she's asking for contact information, but she's also asking, how did you hear about Cooper Law? What is your legal issue? So getting into the match of the person's legal issue in her practice areas, which are family law and Social Security disability. And that question is starred, which means if you don't have an answer for that, that is either family law or Social Security disability, you can't complete the form so it doesn't have unqualified leads generating to her. Now, she has an option here for other, which means that actually the form can be submitted. I would argue that if it really is strictly family law and Social Security disability, that you don't even have the other option. And if you can't click one of those two buttons, the form cannot be submitted, which means that the person gets the clear message, and you could even have an error message show up that says, please select one of those two options. If not, see my recommended law firms for other practice areas. And that could link to a page on the website that has all of the recommended firms that you refer to, whether it's just for goodwill or it's something you're monetizing. Now, the last question here is there a court hearing scheduled for your case? And we often see this with these sorts of practice areas or with criminal defense, for example. Yes, no, I don't know are the options that she provides. I would also recommend putting an exact date in there so that someone can tell you the exact urgency that they have if a court date is scheduled. Now, going back to that landlord-tenant example that I promised, and a freebie of generating really goodwill for your law practice and also identifying very well-targeted potential clients, one of the things that Tri-City Legal does is they have forms built into their website that are very organic SEO friendly, that generate a lot of traffic because it allows the person who visits the website to complete an eviction notice for the city of Chicago. It gets emailed to them after it's completed with directions for submitting it themselves. And then they know, the law firm knows, is it a 5-day notice? Is it a 21, 28-day notice? And then they know exactly when to follow up to check in and say, do you need help from our law firm? We saw that you had completed this. Did you end up submitting that eviction notice? And can we be of help to you? And maybe they'll say that after 3 days for a 5-day notice, or after 19 days for a 21-day notice. They have all the information that they need. They can see the number of tenants. They can see the situation, a description for the issue that's happening, and the rent that they're paying per month, et cetera, all the details they need to make an educated follow-up and be as helpful as possible to that potential client. Now, the fifth step, we've talked a little bit about calendaring, and it's really important that you streamline your appointment scheduling. So not the back and forth via email, but to have the link to a Calendly or Acuity or other calendaring software on your website or accessible to teams who are helping you, whether it's in-house or outsourced, to calendar on your behalf based on your directions. So once they qualify a potential client, to take that next step and to say, you know what, there's a good level of surety that that's a good potential client, schedule that consultation on the calendar, or attempt a warm transfer, or schedule a callback for later in the day if that person's on the phone. If you're the attorney and you're on the phone, it's very helpful to have the calendaring in the hands of people who support your law practice. And it allows you to reduce the amount of time that you spend following up, which is something that is not core to what you can do. And what you can do is lawyering, and that's the best potential use of your firm. It's also networking, business development, things that people can't do on your behalf. This is something that someone can do on your behalf, and it's a major efficiency hack. With online consult scheduling, we also see that sometimes it's hosted on like a third-party site. So if you are doing that, make sure that you have your logo on that site so that it's very clear that the potential client or existing client is still within your domain, so to speak, and is booking an appointment with you or with your law practice. You can have multiple appointment types, by the way. For example, Jessie Nickel here has an initial phone consultation for new clients that she says is free for the first 30 minutes and then a rate of $300 per hour thereafter. She also has a phone conference for other attorneys, court staff, or existing clients. She has a discovery review meeting, and she has a hearing preparation meeting. All of those are accessible on her calendar for booking individually without her involvement. Now, the sixth step here is to consistently collect payments. And we mentioned that the amount of revenue captured as a percentage of the total available revenue is around 85%. What we're seeing is that with credit card payments and with services that follow up on late non-payment, delayed payment, whatever the case may be, regular, clients who are late on their payments, how do you stem that and address that proactively? Typically by accepting debit, credit, ACH with an electronic payment solution like LawPay, HeadNote, ClientPay. There are so many of them, all IOLTA compliant. And you want to have that process that you have access to pay you online with a link. And that can be embedded on your website. It can even be in your email signature. Same thing with your calendaring link. That can be in your email signature. It can also be handed off to in-house or outsourced teams. And what can happen is you can have people proactively reach out to clients that you know are typically late in paying you to get that payment up front. Now, the really nice thing about not having that call come from you is that often we see that the clients are more comfortable with the neutral third party having the discussion with them about finances, because we know that you have a personal relationship with most of your clients. And it's preferable, not just for you maybe, but also for the client to have that discussion on a sensitive financial matter, or the sort of scolding that can happen, not scolding, but it's uncomfortable to have to follow up with someone and say you're late on your payment, to have that be done by a neutral third party that's not you. So it doesn't have any risk of eroding the relationship that you've spent time and energy building up. The other thing that I will say, and this was actually mentioned by an existing client of ours, it wasn't something that I thought of on my own, to be honest, is that credit card payments, you get paid no matter what, no matter whether the funds are available, as long as, the maximum limit hasn't been reached, those funds hit your account. And if they're not able to pay their bill, the onus is on the credit card company to collect on that payment or to charge interest, for example. So that is another benefit to you consistently getting paid. Now, the seventh step has to do with referrals. Really make sure that you are referring out potential clients that are not a good fit for your firm to firms that are a better fit. What we find is that it can even generate positive reviews for your law firm, which obviously generates hopefully more better clients in the future in terms of building your brand and online reputation. But it is so important to build your potential for future clients with that person or people in their network to say, you know what, I'm not going to hang up on this person who's not a good potential fit. I'm going to take a moment, educate them on what I do so that they're informed and they associate my law firm with my practice areas. And if they're in touch with someone who, for example, maybe they contacted you for a family law matter and you do criminal defense, maybe they here's someone who needs a criminal defense attorney and they refer you because you took the few moments to explain what you do and you're a match for that person. It also is really a nice service to say, I recommend this person, this firm that you genuinely do recommend, whether or not you're accepting referral fees or you can accept referral fees. It's really nice to prevent that person from going back to their Google search results, going back to the directory and saying, man, I don't know who to contact now. It's the next person on the list. You're saving them from that extra effort that is really blind to whether or not that next person is going to be the good fit for them or not. You're saving them so much time and energy, and they will feel good about your firm as a result, even if they're not a client of yours. Make sure that you look at typically, model rule 1.5 equivalent for your state bar. That is commonly the area where we see the referral fee allowability addressed. And then implement a process for these referrals. And I refer here on slide 35 to referral strategies. And in another presentation that I make, the URL for that is bit.ly/referrals-maxlawcon19. And that was a presentation that I did earlier this summer, just a little while ago, actually, that has a lot more in-depth resources around referral strategies. But here, what I want to share while we have just a minute left is that you want to think about all the different ways that people contact your firm and who you're consistently referring to, and then not only give that as a handoff to an in-house or an outsourced service, but also post it on your website. If you can link to those firms, you can also reach out to those firms and say, hey, I'm linking to you here. I'm consistently recommending your firm. And then maybe they will, or you can even ask them to do the same for you and link to you. That's only going to be good for organic search traffic, and it will be good for direct traffic as well, as when people go to their site or when that firm is recommending you, you're right there on the list. Now, one of the other ways that you can generate better leads and better referrals for your law firm is to join groups and networks so that you're present and you're active in your community and people think of you and they see you because you're present in their mind. Now, you can also build your target audience with things like events. You can teach CLEs. You can build your brand in a number of ways, and you can also educate people in your community about what it is that you do and you don't do, and educate potential clients on why practice areas matter and how lawyers specialize, and help people understand better what it is to work with a law practice and why that specialization so often occurs. I think that's one area where there are plenty of clients who don't know the right questions to ask, and that's a really good way for building your brand and also really positive sentiment for you and your community, is to proactively help educate people that will serve them well. Now, the bonus here is to integrate your communications into your existing systems. So if you have calls and texts and web chats that are happening, make sure that they're automatically logged in your CRM. Save yourself the time of that data entry, and also it's more accurate. So if you have automatically the phone number that the person is using to text you and it's logged in your contact management system, that phone number is not going to be a typo if you're typing it in later, if it's automatically passed through. So have the software that has an open API, that's what you're looking for, or it connects through Zapier, which is an affordable service that makes those connections if the software isn't enabling that themselves, basically. Now, we also see really smart workflows with document generation, with e-signatures. For example, Justine Nickel, who had that calendar with the multiple appointment types that I showed you, now she actually has a document generation system, a workflow that's set up where the document after the call is sent for the retainer agreement. And as soon as that agreement is signed via electronic signature, it generates the first invoice. And with her particular practice in criminal defense, as soon as that invoice is paid, she can get to work. And that actually enables her to do something incredible, which is to help people who may have a court hearing even as soon as the next morning. So if that is interesting to you, a lot of affordable services are available. DocuSign, HelloSign, things like that allow you to streamline the work that's required to get that new client, which means the sooner you get that agreement to them, the more you're capitalizing on that emotion, that sentiment that you generated during that consultation, if you did determine that that was a good potential client for your firm. So speeding the response time there actually will improve your conversion rate for new clients who you want. Some other operational things, we find that dictation software is a huge efficiency gain. Typically, it's 3 to 4 times faster than typing. We even have receptionists who work with us who dictate because they have mobility or limited physical issues, that allows them to do their job. So just imagine how much it can help for you to do your job more efficiently and better protect the time that you have and open up time for that business development, for teaching CLEs, for networking. That is time that is open to you if you build efficiency in other ways. Now, in terms of marketing and new business growth, we talked about email nurturing drips. Also make sure you're tracking your performance, that if you are paying for marketing campaigns or you're spending energy in an email newsletter, that you're tracking your open rate, the click-through rate. What are the most popular articles? What are people reading? What is resonating with them? Do more of that. Who are the best referral sources for you? How are you deepening those relationships and spending the most time and energy on the relationships that are most beneficial to your firm's sustainability and growth? Now, as I promised, there is a game plan here, and that is to track your time for 1 week and then to tag that time that billable and non-billable time, as things you're going to continue doing yourself because you must, things that you're going to streamline. How do you ease up on them? Things that you can automate with software, like reducing the back and forth email, accepting, electronic signatures, accepting credit card payments. These are all automations. And then outsourcing, hand off that initial phone call, web chat, forward those contact form completions, and have them responded to before you're the person who talks to that potential client. And then prioritize fixes by the greatest time consumption, importance, and urgency, using the Eisenhower decision matrix, which I link to on slide 39, and that really gets into the balance of, are you focusing your time on the most important and urgent tasks, or are you, as so often can be the case, trying to check off a lot of little boxes that can be very satisfying to get that work done, but doesn't really move the needle for your law firm and can be an inefficient use of time. Now, scheduling and payments are often the most time-consuming and most easily outsourced, and data entry and lead follow-up are the most easily automated. Now, what I recommend is that you address the top 3 in the next 30 to 60 days, not all of them all at once, and then wait 1 to 2 months to restabilize whatever feels most appropriate in terms of how much data you've collected and how many experience you've had around the impact of these changes. And you may only make one change if it's a significant one for those first 30 to 60 days. Assess the impact and then determine how to proceed. So it's not just quantitative impacts, like the amount of money that you're earning, how much revenue you're capturing as a percent of your total earnings, the number and quality of leads, your client satisfaction and happiness, the number of referrals, the quality of referrals that are coming through to you, but also qualitatively, the stress levels, the sleep quality that you're experiencing. Are those things improving? Is your work-life balance improving? It's both qualitative and quantitative. So just a couple other resources as we finish up today. There is an ebook on our website. It's called Are You Lawyering or Laboring? If you go to Smith AI or you email me at Maddy, M-A-D-D-Y, @smith.ai, I would be happy to share that with you. Also, if you have access to the presentation, as I mentioned, you can click on this link right there and you'll get that presentation, that ebook that you can download. There's also a law firm communication playbook that we have created to help facilitate you handing off and streamlining communications to run a more productive and professional practice. That link, again, is available in the deck, which we've made available to you today. And here is my email. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am delighted to be able to share this advice with you. If I can help you further, please don't hesitate to email me. My email is Maddy, M-A-D-D-Y, @smith.ai. Thank you so much.
That's it for this week's episode of Profit with Law. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with at least one person. Imagine how many lives we can change if we each shared this episode. Another way to share the episode is on social media. We appreciate your support and look forward to you joining us again next week.